The location is a spot near Loch Long, at the head of Loch Long, quite close to the village of Arachar. And this is going to be in the nature of a geographical field trip. And in the course of this field trip, we're going to be looking at such things as a bit of geology, some glacial landforms, natural vegetation, land use, and maybe perhaps some items to do with recreation and leisure. Now, in the course of this excursion, there could possibly be a hill climb. We may actually take in a Munro, and the Munro that we'll climb is in fact a hill called Beinn Narnain. That's spelled N-A-R-N-A-I-N. Now, Beinn Narnain is 3,036 feet. It just scrapes into the Munro tables and no more. And we'll be heading off up to the summit, and hopefully the weather will remain as it is just now, fairly dry and not much of a wind. We're going to actually, I would like the camera to focus up onto the hill here to see the early part of the route, the first part of the route. Now, the first part of the walk is going to involve going up through a piece of coniferous forest planting. You can just see that forest on the left. And we'll be heading up towards the crag that you can see there. Now, that crag up there is not, in fact, the summit. Beinn Narnain is what we often call a rather retiring mountain. The summit is hidden well beyond that. But the route up to the crags there is quite straightforward. We don't do any rock climbing, anything of that kind. There is an easy way around the crag. So I think we better start. Now, probably the most dangerous part of this climb is trying to get across this busy road, so better move while there's still a lull in the traffic. Well, that's about 1 minute into the walk and I'm needing to stop already for a rest. But actually what we want to do here is, this is a wee kind of recreation tourism bit, because here we have an information notice board, a wee cairn here. An information notice board was put up by the Arachar mountain rescue people, and it just gives you some advice about what equipment to take and one or two bits about safety on the hill. So let's have a wee look, see what it says here. Summer equipment personal checklist. We have here, make sure you take a map, over trousers, a whistle, day rations, first aid kit, balaclava, emergency rations, scarf, watch, sun hat, survival bag, spare sweater. What else? Overknits, goggles, sunglasses, compass, gaiters, torch, spare socks, gloves, notebook and pencil, and a brush and comb. Oh, I know what that's for. It's to get your hair nice and neat in case you want your photographs taken at the summit cairn, or in case you meet Muriel Bray, I don't know. Now, what have I got on? What sort of gear have I got? Well, nothing very fancy. Good pair of stout boots, gaiters for going through mud and wet vegetation. In my bag here I have over trousers, a waterproof jacket, food of course, compass, whistle. Very much the same as what we have here on this list, in fact. There is one thing though, the type of trousers I have are not actually ideal. Shouldn't really wear cords, because apparently cords soak up the moisture and can be quite heavy. But I've found them okay. In any case, I've got over trousers to put on should it rain. Now, the next part of the walk, this is the steep part, quite a steep part. We go through this forest, coniferous forest, and we have to negotiate some large concrete steps. Apparently they were put there when the Loch Lloyd Dam project was being constructed, and they used a railway line up here to carry all sorts of equipment up onto the hill. So let's go. A bit of an unrelenting slog coming up through that forest there. At least we're now into the open now. Give me half a minute to get my breath back. What are you doing? Yeah. Oh, it's just a wee bit of a film, nothing very serious. I see. But you're in it anyway, you're in it. No slog coming up through that coniferous woodland there, negotiating these big concrete steps that I mentioned earlier. But at least we're now out in the open. But the unrelenting slog continues for quite a wee bit yet. We will see quite a bit of evidence from now on of quite severe footpath erosion. And this is partly to do with the fact that the track we're on just now is also the track for another favourite hill round about here called the Cobbler, or Beinn Narnain. But at some point we will be separating from that route, but not for some time yet. Great fun. Oh, thank goodness that bit's over. That's quite a long drag there, following all these concrete steps. I think we've seen the last of them. But this is the point now where the track separates from those who are going to climb the Cobbler. They'll actually be going that way, and they've got a nice level walk for about 1 3/4 kilometres. But that's not for us. We're heading up this way towards a crag, which on the Ordnance Survey map seems to be called something like Cruach Nan Mishake. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but that's the word as printed on the map. So this is the route we're going to be going now. But I could take this opportunity possibly to point out 1 or 2 glaciated landforms. Okay, let's see if we can identify a glacial feature. The valley that you see opposite, the valley that seems to be at a higher level from the loch below, namely Loch Long, that's a feature called a hanging valley. And that was carved out by glaciers, perhaps maybe, well, when glaciation was at its peak about 18,000 years before the present. But the main glacier, the one that carved out the rock basin which is now occupied by Loch Long, the water that you see there, that was the main glacier. But the glacier would have a tributary glacier, and that would be the one flowing in to join the main one. And that tributary glacier would carve out the hanging valley you see there. The reason why the floor of that hanging valley is at a higher level than the loch is because, well, obviously the tributary glacier wouldn't be so powerful and it wouldn't be able to carve down and erode the rocks down to the same level as Loch Long. So there you have it, a hanging valley. We may as well take this opportunity while we're at this particular spot to take a look at the mountain you see there. Now that's a very popular mountain indeed. That's in fact Beinn Narnain at 3192 feet. I've got no idea how many metres that is, I just don't think in metres, but 3192 feet. Very popular indeed with hill walkers. It's Scotland's most southerly Munro, and perhaps one of the most interesting features about it, at least with regards to geography anyway, that's the flat shoulder that you see on the right side of the peak, and perhaps a flattish shoulder on the left side too. Now that is what we call in the business a former erosion surface. In other words, many millions of years ago, the level land would probably be at the level of the summit of Beinn Narnain. There are various other summits round about that you can't see quite from here, all at roughly the same level, well certainly further north anyway. But with wind and rain and ice and various other agents of erosion, the land would be worn down to that level you see, where you see the shoulder. Beinn Narnain's summit would remain at that height because it would be more resistant. So we see a lower level, a former erosion surface. In fact, all over the landscape there are various plateau surfaces which represent former erosion surfaces. Now there's not an awful lot of people know that, erosion surfaces. I mean, if you go down to Coatbridge Main Street and ask the first person you meet, do you know what is meant by an erosion surface? I'll bet they couldn't answer that, but you know. Getting a bit chilly now, I think I'll put my pullover back on. But we're now going to head up this smaller track here, not so well used, Beinn Narnain. Although it's a popular hill, it's perhaps not quite as popular as the Cobbler. But we're going to head up this track. As you can see, it's quite badly eroded, it's quite muddy, and it's going to take us up to the crag there. There is a way around it, and once we do get round it, we'll be heading on towards the summit. I'll put my pullover on later. A wee scrambly bit. Yuck. Getting muddy, wee scrambly bit there, as I said. There isn't anything very scary about it, of course, you know, just for a wee bit of show. Jim, our illustrious cameraman, he did a wee sort of bypass route there, but that's only because he's got a camera to carry and a tripod and all the rest of it, so I'll let him off with that. But it levels out a wee bit now. The gradient is not quite so steep, so it gives us a chance to get our breath back. So let's go. Come on, mountains to climb, mountains to climb. Right, we've managed to reach our first objective. That's the top of Cruach Nan Mishig that I mentioned earlier, and we're now looking down onto at the head of Loch Long. Now, Loch Long is it's actually a sea loch. It's a deeply penetrating sea inlet, and it was carved out by a glacier. Possibly the glacier would move from left to right, and it would carve out a rock basin which would later be filled by seawater. Now, technically it's really a fjord, because any sea inlet in a hilly area is a fjord. Now, admittedly, it's not maybe as dramatic as the Norwegian fjords, but very attractive nonetheless. So there you are, Loch Long, a sea loch. And technically a fjord. Looking down at the head of Loch Long, and the flat ground that you can see there with the houses built on it, part of Aracher, that was actually underwater at one time, possibly, I would say maybe 5,000–6,000 years ago. But with the weight of the ice removed from the land began to rise up. Now the technical word for this is isostatic recovery of the land. And the result is, of course, the sea level dropped, leaving this part that you see down there high and dry. Now it should actually be damp ground, possibly meadowland, and it would be the ideal place for grazing, say, dairy cattle, because the grass would be damp and rich and lush. Actually, I've only ever seen a horse grazing in that, so I think possibly the farmer has been ignoring his geography lessons. However, that's the head of the sea loch, now high and dry, and probably since about 5,000 years ago. I promised you that I would take a look at some wild plants on the hillside. The plants that you see here, there's quite a variety of them. There's harebell or Scots bluebell, that's the blue coloured one. And the one above it, several ones above it, that's Devil's Bit scabious, which is not particularly common to hillsides. Neither is the harebell. In fact, it can grow quite low down, in meadowland. The one that is more typical of hillsides is the one, the pale green groups of flowers there, small pale green colour, and that's Alpine Lady's Mantle. There's also, of course, some heather there too. So there's quite a variety of plants in that small area on this hillside, and I think we must be at least about 1,500 feet above sea level here. Getting colder, got the jacket and the hat on now, a wee bit higher. But this is the geology bit, wee geology bit here. This massive rock, big boulder here, is composed of a rock called schist, S-C-H-I-S-T. And schist is a metamorphic rock, as we say in the business. That's a rock which has been altered by heat and pressure from a rock that was something else, perhaps a silt stone or a mudstone. But schist is easily identified by the wavy lines. So if ever you see a rock with wavy lines in it like that, you can be, well, 80% sure it's schist. There are various kinds of schist, but one of the minerals that you find in this rock, that is if you had a fresh surface and not a weathered surface like this, you find minerals like mica, muscovite mica, and it's mica that gives schist, when you see a fresh surface, that is, it's a sort of silvery sheen. Many of the mountains round about here are composed of schist. Many of the mountains in the southern part of the Highlands, the Cobbler, the hill we're on just now, Beinn Narnain, and the more popular Ben Lomond. Now, the white mass that you see here is not, in fact, a rock. It's actually a mineral, because rocks are composed of minerals. And one of the most common rock-forming minerals in the Earth's crust is this one that you see here. It's called quartz. It's white because of impurities in it, and it's sometimes called milky quartz or vein quartz. And it's very common indeed. And you don't often see it in a big mass like this. You more often see it as veins running through rock, especially this schist that we're talking about. So it's the kind of thing that you would see in the beach if it had been worn down to a small stone like a chucky stone. So we could say this is a big massive chucky stone, but it is in fact quartz. Very common hereabouts. Now here's a wee bit about glaciation. The rock that you see, the small rock perched on top of a rock platform, that's what we call a glacial erratic. It was probably a piece of rock plucked from the mountainside by a glacier, carried some distance, and then as the ice melted, the rock would be lowered onto that rock platform there. Now the rock itself, the glacial erratic, looks to me as though it's a local rock. It hasn't been transported very far. But there are some rocks that have been transported great distances, even from as far away as Norway, brought over by glaciers coming across the North Sea. But that one there looks to me like a local rock composed of schist, a glacial erratic. Just ignore the worried look. Ooh, yuck, mud. Nothing but mud. Okay. Okay, now we're coming to the last section of this climb. This geographical field trip, I should say. And we're going to negotiate this craggy bit here. It looks a wee bit iffy, but in fact there is a track, a well-worn track, which avoids all obstacles, as we say in the business. The bit that we're going to go down here, there's a dip here, and on the left and on the right there are two corries. Now, corries are actually where a glacier developed and slid down into the glen below, over deepening the corrie. But so there's a corrie on this side, there's a corrie on that side, and this bit in between that we're going to walk over, I suppose is something you could call a glacial spillway, where ice spilled over from one corrie into the other. But the loose boulders that you see there, that's the result of weathering and frost shattering. That's where rain gets into cracks in the rock and then freezes and expands and splits the rock so that bits of rock fall down the hill. So it's a pretty well weathered hillside we're going to go up here now. So I guess we better get moving. Notice the hands in the pockets. Another wee scrambly bit. It's only for show though, it's only for show. I should have gone the easy way. Well, this is the last section of the climb now, going up this wee gully here, and if I dislodge any stones, Jim McKechnie, our illustrious cameraman, will just need to look out, because I've got to look after myself here. It's every man for himself. But this takes us up almost to the summit and up to a bit of rock called the Spearhead. So let's negotiate this and look out for falling rock. You said Narnain was easy. Lion toad. Right, okay. Beinn Narnain. This is us now at 3,036 feet. I'll not say how long it's taken us to get here. I mean, after all, I did have to lug Jim McKechnie on my back with me. But it's a very small plateau type surface, and the rocks are all shattered and broken by the process of called frost shattering. But I think the time is now ripe to get some rewards. I don't mean a can of juice or a roll of cheese or anything. What I mean is to look at the views and try and name some of the mountains round about, and perhaps some glacial features, because after all it is really a geographical field trip, remember. The mountain you see there is Beinn Narnain, that's spelled I-M-E, and it apparently means the butter mountain of all things. It's about 3,500 feet, and if we move to the right we can see away in the distance Ben Nevis. So we can just focus on Ben Nevis away up towards Fort William. And to the right of Ben Nevis, the hill in the sort of middle distance, is a mountain up near Tyndrum called Ben Louis. That's a spectacular hill indeed, especially for winter climbing. There's a great corrie there that's covered in snow and corniced. There's quite a bit of ice climbing goes on there in the winter. If we move to the right of that, the hill that you see there, which is dark looking, that's another Munro called Ben Oss, O-S-S, Ben Oss. To the right of that, and also in darkness, is a lower hill with a flattish top called Ben Duchraig. Now the two mountains that you can see in the distance there, the one to the left is Ben More, that's up near Crianlarich. It's a pretty high one, that's about 3,800 feet or so. And the one to the right of that, the pointy one, that's Stobinian. That's a lovely mountain, Stobinian. And there once again we see Ben Lomond. This is a hill that we've noted on at least one other occasion on this walk up to Beinn Narnain. Remember we said it was Scotland's most southerly Munro at 3,192 feet. So there you are, spectacular views. Well, it's been a good day. The weather's kept pretty fine. The wind moderated quite a wee bit. The rain has kept off. We've seen a few spectacular things. All that remains now is for us to negotiate our way down Beinn Narnain the easy way. I'd like to thank Jim McKechnie, my cameraman, the sound engineer, the first grip, second grip, the gaffer, the best boy, the nurse, the surgeon. That's enough, let's get going.